Шановні колеги, ми продовжуємо робочий день. Тема наступної події.
Continue our working day. The next event is e-declaration submitted. What's next? Our guest, Oleksandra Drik, chairman of the NGO Civil Lustration Committee, Oleksandr Lyemenov, manager of anti-corruption group RPR, also Galina Chizhik, Center for Democracy and Rule of Law, Yevhen Cherniak, analyst at Transparent International Ukraine, and Igor Sobolev, the head of the Committee of Verkhovna Rada on anti-corruption. The first one is Oleksandra. Good afternoon. Today is a special day because today is the third anniversary of the beginning of Euromaidan, and we selected this date not accidentally. Let us remember what Euromaidan started from. What were the first requirements? To remove Yanukovych and his gang from power, to remove corruptionists from power, and to move from totalitarian Russia to democratic civilized Europe. Let us think about what we have today. We have same Yanukovych in power, just with different names. Corruptionists are not punished, and they continue to subvert any attempts of reformers to change the system of public administration. And till now we have not received a visa-free regime. Europe, which has been and is one of our largest partners in reforming the country, in overcoming corruption, draws attention to the fact that the visa-free regime is not extended because at the highest level there's no desire to fight corruption, and that leads to hampering all and to slowing down all reforms in Ukraine. When we are talking about e-declaration, which everyone was trying to have implemented so that these 100,000 declarations are submitted to the system so that there's no interference with the legislation. Today we are talking about the fact that just like 3 years ago, the task of cleaning the authority, the power from Yanukovych and from corruptionists depends fully on the society. The system of e-declaration is not just one of the anti-corruption instruments. This is the instrument which will lead to change of political system of the country. But for it to start fully function, we will need to repel not one attack. And that is why the success of e-declaration depends today on how every citizen who wants changes in the country will get involved into the process. We are saying that the system of e-declaration is our anti-corruption Maidan. Just like then, we are following same objectives and we are putting same tasks to ourselves, the same as activists who were in Euromaidan. Just as 3 years ago, the success depends on how many people will participate in this process. As a coalition which unites 6 anti-corruption organizations which have the objective to clean the power via checking declarations, we understand how important it is to explain what instruments every citizen can use to clean it up. And that is why we developed many information materials, and we will show today how using these information materials, infographics, how using the instruments which are available at the website of the National Anti-Corruption Committee, how to achieve cleaning the country from the corruptionists. I will give the floor to my colleague Oleksandr Lyemenov, who will talk in detail about the information material which we offer for every citizen to use. Just like 3 years ago, there could be no cardinal change unless everyone is involved into the process. Thank you, Oleksandra. Well, let's start from one thing, the most important and possible scenario for finding these civil servants who are corruptionists. This is monitoring of the way of life of civil servants. That's a new instrument of anti-corruption fight. It includes several consistent steps which help us identify the corruptionists.
Коротко кажучи, громадяни організації
The citizens, the journalists give the information to the Anti-Corruption Committee. Also, the committee can also find some inconsistencies, and that could be the foundation for monitoring of the way of life. The national agency makes steps which confirm the facts of the corruption. Having studied the explanation of the declarant, the committee makes a decision to check the declaration. Basically, the person could be made administratively or criminally responsible, or the
перевірки, які наслідки. Ось. З приводу перевірки.
Talking about inspections, what are the consequences and how the inspections are made. The responsible for that is the National Agency on Preventing Corruption, and there are the consequences for violation of that legislation. We need to mention also another method of control, which is logical and arithmetic control, the checking declarations of whether there are some differences is to be done automatically or manually. With my colleagues, we have identified some declarants who did not logically fill in their declaration. Maybe that was the technical mistake, or whether maybe they were trying to deceive us, and they will have to explain why such sums are mentioned, are quoted. Talking about full inspection or checking of the declaration, if that's more than 100 salaries, which is 1,200 hryvnias. If it's more than 100, that's administrative responsibility. If that's more than 250 minimum salaries, that's criminal responsibility.
Інфографіку щодо перших хвиль.
Made infographic, and it lasted from the 1st of September till the 30th of October. The declarant had 7 days to correct it. Many of them used this right. First, they submitted declaration with certain date, and then they changed it. There's a technical nuance. It's difficult to differentiate between the old declaration and updated declaration. Let's move to the next one, next infographics. The comparison of e-declaration with the register. First of all, you need to look at the declaration of the civil servant. This could be done in the single register. The second step, to compare electronic declaration with paper declaration. We know that previously all the civil servants which were submitting paper declarations, and it would be logical to compare declarations during several years, whether the assets were increased or decreased. Third step, to look whether the declarant has any business. This could be done again using the single register of entrepreneurs. Next, to check whether the declarant received any land plots. Again, there's a special, there's a land cadastre. The fifth one, to find real estate of the declarant. Luckily, for 21 hryvnia, in the state register, you can find out what real estate this or that person has. 6, which car does the declarant have? Again, there's a single state register of transportation. The 7th, to find inconsistencies in declaration. We mentioned what the principle is and what the responsibility is. And once you found the inconsistency, then you have to submit the information about that to the National Anti-Corruption Bureau or the Agency on Prevention of Corruption. I will not talk about logical and arithmetic control, but that infographic, which is developed by our team, is very helpful, and I would like to give the floor to Yevhen Cherniak, the legal advisor of the coalition.
Одне слово.
Thank you. And first of all, I would like to greet you with today's day. It's a joyful event and also quite tragic event. There were so many sacrifices that we have no way out. We should move forward in the direction of reforms. In fact, e-declaration, one of the serious positives on the background of the very sad situation with general reforms. I would like to thank my colleagues and Igor Sobolev, because the committee was supporting e-declaration. That is a very important anti-corruption instrument. Oleksandr showed the infographic. We prepared the infographic. This is like a primary school of control of declaration. We have some infographics according to which you can have a basic understanding of what will happen after these declarations are made public. Because on the one hand, we see some differences. We moved from general statements to specific. We see how much cash everyone has, how many houses, cars a person has. But the e-declaration, first of all, has to prevent corruption, and it should stop those who could be stopped, and also it's punitive. It has a punitive action. Those who committed criminal crimes should be made responsible. We approach the stage of analysis of the declarations. It is important. As soon as the citizens will start checking declarations in detail, as soon as they start promotion campaigns, the national agency which is responsible for inspections and anti-corruption bureau will join They will not be just imitating the work. I am sure that the declarations will be checked, and we will see the first results of these checkings in the form of administrative, disciplinary administrative punishments, and in the form of change of the trend, when the civil servant will understand that they have to explain their incomes. If you don't want to do that, leave this place for another person. Go to the private sector if you want to live according to certain standards. I would like to mention logical and arithmetic control, what it is. We go to the website, we see the e-declaration, many figures, many different data. In fact, having read this declaration, having studied certain things like expensive watches, houses, cars, we look at the information which is there, but how to check it? There are several legal ways. The Agency on Prevention Corruption has to check it all. Before that, the logical and arithmetic control takes place. You understand what's happening. The main indicators of declaration are calculated, the amount of cash, income, expenditures, and then there is a logical control. What it means is, like, for example, if the land plot without a house is mentioned, maybe there is a real estate on this land plot, but the construction hasn't been finished. This should be checked, and the citizens can do it. You can go to the Google map and you will see whether there's real estate on that plot of land. That is a logical control, even without monitoring the way of life, even without checking the registers. You can make first conclusions looking at the e-declaration. Then the first, the full checking. They check it against the database that there is the database of fiscal service, of state customs service. There are different state databases which the Agency on Prevention Corruption has access to, and they have to scan the declaration against all these databases, and also other evidence that we receive from the citizens. This is the full checking. We made the logical and arithmetic control of one of the declarations, and that is the declaration of Lozovy, the member of Radical Party. It is important when you look at the declaration to analyze not just the declaration but the biography of a person. It is important to see what the person was doing, where he worked, what he was engaged in. Very often people say it wasn't business, but you need to check what business was it, what were the incomes. It's not so easy to do it for citizens, but you can look at some indicators. You can ask the questions and send it to the agency, and the criminal or administrative proceedings could be filed only after the full check is done. So Lozovy is 27. He studies, he's a postgraduate student. In 2014, he was elected the member of Kyiv City Council. Before there's no information about what he was doing before 2014, but the declaration of Lozovy says that he has 8 paintings, 4 elite watches, 186 bottles of wine, so 24 positions, the cross, the icons, and so on, in these 24 positions. And that's the minimum threshold. And the minimum threshold is 100 minimum salaries. So basically, 2 million is real estate.
Грошових активів у пана Лозового Є 20...
And the cash, he has 150,000 euros, 800,000 grivnas, and $50,000. Let's calculate the exchange rate which was there, and we find out 5 million, almost 6 million grivnas. So in total it's 8 million plus grivnas. We just calculate the cash and real estate. Now let's look at the official income that he received. According to his declaration in 2015, he received in total 150,000 grivnas. In 2014, 23,000 grivnas, according to his paper declaration, and in 2013, 32,000 grivnas. So in total, 206,000. It's not difficult to calculate this, calculated declarations, and now we compare. So the sum mentioned in the declaration exceeds the official earned income by 43 times. We would like to draw attention that we have calculated it according to minimum indicators. There are expensive watches, there are paintings, the cost is not mentioned. We say that that's minimum threshold, and we calculate it this way. So we can say that there are grounds for to check also the Lozovy declared the party card, and he believes that it costs more than 120,000 grivnas. And so why he believes that it costs something on the one other hand, that is another, that is also the question. Another question, Mr. Lozovy mentioned that in 2015 he was leasing the car, Toyota Sequoia, of 2013. How much does the year of lease cost it? It's expensive car, and it's obvious that the cost is higher than the minimum threshold for expenditures. Now it is 50 minimum salaries. And we need to check it again, because this will be another article of the Criminal Code of Ukraine. It's indicating wrong information. So we group it up, we structure it up, and we get the address of the National Agency on Prevention of Corruption. We will submit this address to the agency, and we hope that there will be a full check made. That's not the last declaration. We check many declarations this way, and we will get new interesting facts, and that is what will be happening. But I will say a few words in the end. This will happen in case if the obstacles are removed for efficient work and control of declarations. What are the obstacles? The first one is no automatic modules of checking of a declaration, which should be developed by the Agency of Prevention of Corruption, so that we don't have to manually check the declaration, so that it's done automatically based on risk indicators. The system will control declarations. That is very important. Second, registration of the procedures of the control of submitting declarations and other things. And that is what the Ministry of Justice is responsible for. The third component is relevance of databases which are in Ukraine, because the colleague mentioned it correctly. We see different registers, but not all the information is in registers. The database of the Ministry of the Interior is not full. At the regional level, there are different databases. There's the register of real estate, and when you go into it, you will not get the full picture. Thank you. Now I will give the floor to Galina Chizhik, and she will tell about checking declarations.
Good morning. I will add a couple of words words, how you can reveal the untrue information in the declaration of bureaucrats. We analyzed, the Chesna organization analyzed the declarations of 400 judges. It was about declarations which they submitted in line with the old law about prevention of corruption. From the moment when electronic declarations were submitted by judges in October, we decided to compare the information in electronic declarations against that paper declarations information. We found out significant differences between information of the same people in those two types of declarations. At least 10 judges recollected that they had more property. In electronic declarations, they showed real estate, land properties, cars, etc. Judge Svetlana Golovchuk recollected about 2 land plots, a car, and a house. Valentina Yurchenko, judge, have found 2 more cars and a land plot. Some judges repeated information about properties indicated in the previous declaration, while the cars are much younger, thus produced not in 2010 but in 2012. In electronic declarations, some judges omitted the previous information. For example, some flats disappeared, and actually this is typical. We revealed that this was typical for declarations submitted by judges all around Ukraine, and now the National Agency on Anti-Corruption work should tackle this problem. Some judges rather seriously took electronic declarations, having indicated the properties which were omitted in paper declarations. Shows that the judges were more serious this time. But actually, now NABU has to show that they still are responsible for information shown in paper declarations. The sanction for untrue information is equal only to a fine, but this sanction will impose discipline on judges. Currently in the parliament, we see some draft laws offering changes, amendments to the anti-corruption laws, trying to close information about electronic declarations. The Council of Judges started to say that judges are being robbed because of the true information. But and there was information that Malvina Danilova was robbed, a judge of the High Commercial Court, but we revealed that that flat and that car, which were stolen, they were not shown in the electronic declaration of this judge. So these are like comic situations. So the judges are afraid to mention all the properties because these are really huge and expensive properties. People should know about this, and we should stand for that level of reporting, that level of transparency, which is stated in the latest law. This demonstrates how people can compare paper declaration against electronic declaration and find discrepancies between the two. With this, I would like to give the floor to Yegor Sobolev, an MP and chairman of the Anti-Corruption Committee in the Parliament. Civic activists actually had said much. I would like to express my support and my respect to the work which was carried out by those people. I would like to say that it should be done, that control and monitoring should be carried out not by 400 or 400 people, but by 40 million of Ukrainian population. We should bring to senses all those people who occupy their high positions and do not take into account just ordinary people. This is going to be rather long and sorrowful work of ordinary citizens. Today, I have played my role and sign up a submission about checking the way of checking the lifestyle of Ms. Yulia Tymoshenko, leader of the Batkivshina party. Also, recently, I also suggested to my other two colleagues, like Mr. Lashko and Mr. Hrenev, leaders of the parliamentary factions, to submit explanations to their electronic declarations to the NABU. And now, when mayors of many cities had submitted their declarations, when judges, prosecutors had submitted their declarations, so now in your places, in your cities, towns, you can get access to these electronic declarations and submit your requests to NABU about investigations. Today we have the third year anniversary of the Maidan events start, and the long way was passed by the society with dignity, and I think that we have got our first victory. This is our next step on the way of cleaning power. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or specifications? One small specification. It's important when you have made use of instruction, if you have found the signs of illegal wealth, illegal proceeds, you should inform Nazakant Nabu. We suggest to inform us in order to monitor how Nazakant Nabu would proceed with their investigations. we will launch the electronic system facilitating this work. If you have any facts suggesting that there are discrepancies between the lifestyle and the electronic declaration of any person, we encourage you to inform us. And very soon, and even now, we will provide legal assistance and informational support to each case. Thank you.